Good afternoon, friends, and good afternoon, Dr. Nandi, once again.
Ah, thank you, sir. Thank you. Very good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon, sir. So we were expecting some more people, but we want to maintain the sanctity of time as well.
Yes.
I think we will begin and others will join as they join because quite a few had enrolled.
Hmm,
So
hmm,
it
hmm.
must have been something which has kept them away. Nevertheless, I think we should go ahead. So
Yeah.
friends, we all may or may not be aware that there were so many labor laws which had to be complied with, understood with. And I remember that there were 40 odd labor laws existing. And the special committee which sat on it for quite a few years eventually decided that all these uh, various labor laws should be consolidated, made more easier for compliance, made more easier for understanding and implementation. So accordingly, quite a few things were done, which I will not deal about. That is Dr. Nandi's prerogative. So what were these kinds of things and what the laws have come out to be is what Dr. Nandi is going to speak to us today on. And so I would like to take the opportunity to briefly introduce him. He's a very unique person in the sense that he's worked in the civil services, he's worked with the government, he has worked in the corporate sector, and now he's in the education sector. So it's very rare to find a person of such diverse experience. So he has been, he was the uh, deputy collector and executive magistrate in Odisha Administrative Service. Then he worked with Reserve Bank, and he was there with the Reserve Bank Mint. That is a note within this thing. And then he was there with the Reserve Bank per se also. After that, he came into the corporate sector and worked in quite a few organizations, and he was the director and occupier and CEO of Tilak Nagar Group of Industries, and he was also independent and non-executive director for a while. And he has been a very prolific corporate trainer. He has done several management development programs. And today he is with us to share his understanding and to make us all aware as to what are these code on wages that have been approved by the government and in what stage of implementation they are. I think that is what Dr. Nandi, we are eager to listen to you. Over to you, sir.
Yeah. So thank you very much, Deepak ji. You have been such a great friend, and many of the things you have said, I feel really very good to hear from a friend. And yeah, it was a conscious choice that after 39 years corporate experience and experience in other sectors, I decided to move to Narsimha University to teach because my father said enough is enough. Now you give back everything to the students. Then I was in the lookout, where should I go? I had very distinct impression of Narsim Monji University students. I had engaged quite a few in my company and other companies where I have worked as director and CEO and all that. Because not only of their knowledge, but the way, especially I was touched by the type of upbringing, corporate upbringing they have in the institute. The type of compassion they show in a group discussion, the type of respect, the type of humility they exude in addition to exuding their special leadership qualities and all that. So I said, if I have to move to education, possibly my first choice will be Narsimhaji, and I'm very happy to be here and with great colleagues like Deepak ji and all of you friends. Yes. Now coming to the topic proper, all age. Deepak ji has already told you. See these labor laws. I was working in a company which had 7 factories across the country. So that industrial relation was a day-to-day thing. and we are dealing with the labor laws. How many? Yes, around 40, as rightly mentioned by Deepakji, around 40 labor laws. Some of them you will be surprised were pre-British era also, and very meticulously and faithfully being implemented and followed by the subsequent governments even after independence, creating a havoc for the factories and industries. Okay, it was really a havoc for all of us as to how to comply with so many labor laws. And many times, many labor laws, the spirit and the intent will be clashing with another labor law, and the same type of information they will be asking in a different format. And most important was that the type of regulators for each and everyone, their only purpose is to come and invoke some archaic clause and extract money from us. That was the type of horrible situation in which we are living, and always praying that when this will go, when this somebody will take, when somebody will make change to all these nonsense. And ultimately, obviously the productivity was coming down, and we are just struggling. And with my management skill, I was teaching my guys that you cannot change the situation, so you have to change yourself, because at the end of the day, the corporate will only see whether you are a winner or loser. There is variable salary scheme, this, that, performance appraisal. So everything boils down to one thing: whether you, what have you achieved. If you give excuses that these are the labor laws and I cannot achieve anything, then you remain where you are. So find out ways, and there are hundreds of ways they found out, and I found out, and maybe say at some other forum, these will invoke a lot of jokes, humor, and all that. Yes, but yeah, at the end of the day, we are the winners. Yeah, but now all companies cannot do that. So there has to be structural change in the labor law things. And then very rightly, this idea of converging everything into 4 labor codes, because many of these laws, they have become redundant, and they need not be there in the rule book, and they are only helping to breed corruption here and there. So they should have been abolished, and they have been abolished in the 4 labor codes. Yeah, and then some simplification has been done in many areas. And with these simplifications, the most important simplification, I'll tell you, all of you know, I'm sure that, basically 90% of our workers, now for your information, in the new labor code, the word workman has been abolished. Workmen has been abolished because they wanted to make it gender neutral. So they are being called workers. That's a very simplistic, yeah. But important issue is that almost 90% of our workers, they are in unorganized sector. The labor laws around 40 that we talked now, they were meant only to give protection to the workers in the organized sector. The way they were structured, and another unorganized sector, like a sort of somebody who's doing loading job in your village, he cannot get benefit out of that. Right, you have to work in a formal sector, and then only and you should be at you should have joined a trade union, and then from the trade union they will fight with the management, and there are hundreds ways to fight and win, and they many times they were winning, and you get benefit. But what about these 90% of the workers in unorganized sector? No, nothing. So the first time this attempt has been made, was made to with these 4 labor codes. I look at it as the biggest achievement of the 4 labor codes. When we did that, how the unorganized sector labor, they were brought into the ambit of it. And you cannot imagine the way they benefit. In addition to now these unorganized sectors, a coolie, a loader in the village, he can be a member of the ESIC hospital. Okay, so yeah, Yogesh, are you asking something? Hello. Yeah, Yogesh, I can see you. Yeah. Do you have any question? Anybody has any question? Please feel free to ask me. because I can say with a little bit of pride that with nearly 15 years in manufacturing industry, with 5, 6 very vibrant factories where I played a very key role in handling industrial relations, I'll be able to answer all your questions and the complexities that we have faced earlier and the simplification that we have got now. Yes, coming back to that point I was telling you, that but how to make the changes in labor laws? It was like a holy cow. Nobody was willing to touch. Now government was willing to touch it. In that situation, somehow they mastered the courage and they did it. But India being a concurrent, labor being in a concurrent list, all of you know that in concurrent list both state and center they can frame laws. So labor is in concurrent list. So still the problem is still not over, though almost 70% of the states they have already notified it. So I am sure in another 1 year time it will be notified, and by 23 I think we should be up. We should be up for implementation in all the states. Now also it is being implemented, but in the states where it has been notified already. Yes. So the specific thing is with code on wages, because wage being money, it is there in all the 4 codes. In all 4 codes, the only reference point based on which this is done is your wages. So code of wages will continue to remain at the center stage. Okay, right. So I'll start with the request to all of you to please ask me wherever you feel you have any doubt and all that. Yeah, I'll be very happy to answer. Suppose I cannot answer, I'll find out the answer. Definitely from some knowledgeable source who are more intelligent than me or who have worked more number of years and all that. And but you will get an answer. Yeah, but most probably I'll be able to answer all your questions. Let us see. So what are the labor codes? So 29 separate labor laws will make way for 4 new acts comprising a modern labor code which is designed to improve. These are the intentions with which we have done. We have done means the government has done, which is designed to improve the working conditions and wage of labor and enhance. Number 1 is to improve their working condition. Number 2 is to improve their wage structure. Friends, you will be surprised to know that in unorganized sector, even if the minimum wages will be notified by the state government. Suppose Maharashtra, it will be notifying the state minimum wages, but nobody will pay. No factory is going to pay at that minimum wages, because they will always engage the contractor, and the contractor will have understanding with the management that though minimum wages is 500 rupees, I'll get people at 300 rupees, so another 200 will share or whatever, yeah. So ultimately the poor worker, you never used to get the minimum wages. Okay, so how they have solved it, when I discuss, then you will see how they have solved. This is a very important point they have solved. Now, so there will be improvement in wages, improvement in working condition, and the culture of ease of doing business. I just told you. Do you know, in when I was the director, I had to engage two people to go and bribe the babus, government babus, to get different clearances. Okay, and very jocularly, my steno gave them, my secretary, she named them as development officer. Development officer is doing the job of bribing people. Okay, but otherwise the ease of doing business was so tough. There was no question. There was no question of ease of doing business. Nothing. I'll have to switch it up, please. Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah. So what we did was that it was a sort of anachronism calling these guys development officers, because what they are doing was totally against the spirit of democracy and spirit of the nation that we are. That's a different issue. But so ease of doing business will improve, and in whatever factories it has been implemented by now, because many of my mentees, many of my chummies and students, they are working in factories. They say, sir, the ease of doing business has improved so much because everything is happening online, and you meet one at one place in you fill the form, it goes to all the agencies. We don't have to duplicate this and that. A lot of benefits. We'll discuss slowly. So together these four codes, merged 44, yes, pre-existing labor laws. Okay, so these were merged. Then the government introduced the code of aiming to streamline and simplifying the country's existing and overlapping labor laws. I was just telling you, one labor law will overlap the other. I can give you many examples. The definition given by Industrial Disputes Act, how a worker is defined, and then the definition of worker as has been given in Workmen Compensation Act, in Factories Act, everywhere, PF Act, everywhere there will be a lot of overlapping definitions, which was a sort of hunting ground by the lawyers. Since the subject or labor comes under the concurrent, these I have already told you. Yeah. So now these are the four codes. The four codes are Industrial Relations Code 20, then Code on Social Security 20, then Occupational Safety, Health and Working Conditions Code, that is also 2020. In each and every area, including code on wages, each and every area, believe me friends, I am packed with so much of anecdotes that you will laugh and laugh for hours. But that is for some other day. So important issue is these are the codes. These have been now classified. These have been merged into these four codes. And I'm happy to say that all the codes which were redundant, which were creating a lot of problems in administration, factory administration, they have been removed now. Thankfully, yeah. So these are the four. So very briefly, so because I want to focus more on the this wage code, so I'll be talking about all the codes very briefly so that you have a fair understanding about that. So code on social security, that is the first code. See, earlier position was no definition were given. It was many of the they were left vague. So now all specified definitions are included under the code on social security. Okay, so very clear, no ambiguity, no need to go to the code, very clear, yes, no, right, yeah. See, then second is under all previous regime of labor laws, the cancellation of an industry establishment and its registration was required across all previous employment laws. Yeah. So how these cancellations were being done? These will be done arbitrarily and then with a little bit of dakshina here and there. We used to call dakshina. Okay, as per section 5 of the Code on Social Security, it is not mandatory to obtain registration if the industry establishment is already registered under any of the central law. Yeah, this is a very big achievement. Once you are registered under Factories Act, you need not register it under other acts like Workmen Compensation Act, PF Act, Bonus Act. All these, separate registration will not be required. Yeah. Then come to social security. Then none of the previous labor law provisions had provisions for social security organizations and their formation. So now as per section 4 of the code on social security, enforceability of social security organization and its constitution is provided. So social security organizations will have a very definite role to play as far as the worker security is concerned. Then lack of limitation period for deciding money dues from a particular employer. No, there has to be a limitation period for everything. You cannot drag on a particular claim for your whole life and then waste the time and of the courts and tribunals. So as per section 125, a fixed limitation period of 5 years. Now they have fixed 5 years. Okay, after that it will be time barred and you cannot challenge it. Then no definitions are given for fixed time. ये एक बहुत important point है. You must understand it thoroughly, and you should ask me question. See, no definition are given for fixed term employment of employee. Now, definition of both employee First of all, you should be clear who is an employee. And fixed term employee were introduced. Then the term workman got replaced and renamed as worker. This I have told you that workman was replaced worker mostly to avoid the gender bias, but the first point is important. So employee and fixed term employment and permanent employment. This difference earlier was not there. Now it has come here in Industrial Relation Bill. So what is fixed term employment and what is permanent employment? What is the difference between these two? So the difference is with regard to the code of wages that we will discuss subsequently. There you will see if you are on a fixed term employment, then you will get your gratuity and terminal dues, after 1 year. If you have worked for 1 year also, you will get, which was not there the case earlier. Earlier it was 5 years. Okay, earlier it was if you have not worked for 5 years, then out, nothing you will get. Okay, you will get terminal dues, no gratuity and all that. Now, what they said that if the job is for a sort of fixed period, then you will get. What does it mean? This is keeping with the changes in our industry scenario. Now, the concept of permanent job will go. Most people will be engaged on contract or fixed term appointment. Whether you like it or not, that is going to happen in all the sectors. So when that happens, that time nobody should lose out on gratuity. So for their benefit, it has been decided that it will be after 1 year. But however, somewhere, if it is a PSU and all that who never change, there if the concept of permanent employment still exists, then they will have to follow the rule of 5 years. They have to qualify for 5 years, then only they will get gratuity. It will do a lot of good for the people who will be on contract or contractual job. Most of the jobs will be contractual now, by the way. Because you never know what will be the change in the industry scenario in the future. So that is what we have seen during COVID, that how it has redefined our work with a lot of digitalization happening here and there. Now suddenly everybody wants people to join for a short tenure, not for a permanent job all through your life. No, you cannot afford, because the type of changes that will happen, maybe your skill will be redundant. I'll have to ask you to go, or you yourself you will also leave and go for reskilling. Reskilling is also there. That's a very important thing I'll discuss also. Then a workman is not required to bring grievance to the grievance redressal committee and can directly move to the conciliation officer. That was the earlier scenario. This I have faced many times. Like, they have a grievance. They need not come to the grievance redressal committee, which in the factory that exists, but nobody will go there. They will straight go to the assistant labor commissioner's office or to the regional labor commissioner's office and file complaint against the company. Okay, it's because this is my grievance, that is my grievance. Whereas the factory has works committee. In the works committee, representatives from both the sides are there. So most of the cases can be resolved there. But why they go there? Because their trade union says most of the out of the post political leaders, they get into trade union because they have to get some money every month. They have to have some function, maybe some vehicle also they will get from the trade union office, and trade union gets money by levying it on the workers. So that is how they have a vested interest to ensure that they are relevant. So they will try to take it, drag on to the regional labor commissioner or assistant labor commissioner, and then they will fight on your behalf, on the behalf of the worker for years together, till donkey's years they will fight, because their vested interest is there. Now that has been made compulsory that you are per force, you have to go to the redressal committee first. So grievance redressal committee will be there in the factory. It will be there in the talukas for workers working in non-organized sector. I was talking to you about the organized sector where I have worked, but in non-organized sector also the workers, they will have the advantage of going to the grievance redressal committee. Yeah. Then comes, earlier situation was lack of time limitation provided to complete a disciplinary proceeding. Yeah. This is another area in which I must salute for making these bold changes, because this was also dragging on for years and years. So like the code of conduct in the factory, which comes for worker, it comes from the standing order. There the misconduct is defined, conduct is defined, and anything ulta to that is misconduct. And if you commit a misconduct, then there will be a domestic inquiry, there will be inquiry officer, presenting officer, all these, and there will be lawyers can represent it also. And there this will go on for years and years to the benefit of the trade union leaders who want to make money out of the whole situation. And the cases will still not be solved. And the general manager in the factory is wondering when this case will be over. It will not be over. It will be still going on and all that. Now they have put it a rule, 90 days, 90 days. Within 90 days, it has to be this way, that way. You cannot drag it on beyond that. This is an extremely important change they have brought out. It will do a lot of good. It will do a lot of good. Yeah. The next is the standing orders were only applicable to threshold above 100 or more workmen. Okay. So earlier that was the scenario. 100 was the threshold. Okay. So for standing order, as I told you that somebody who is joining as executive or manager in any company, then he is governed by the conduct rules of the company, But others, those who are workers, they are governed by the standing order. Standing order act was there, and now that has been merged with these four labor codes. So the standing orders were only applicable to threshold above 100. Now this has been improved, this has been changed to 500. Yeah. So the threshold of standing order has been increased and shall be applicable to 500. What is the implication of this? That means standing order is also a draconian clause. Okay, so to benefit the workmen, and while benefiting the workmen, most of the employers, they have suffered a lot, including myself when I was working as director for a company. So we have suffered a lot. So now the threshold has been increased to 500. If that is so, that means less than 500, then the inquiry and all that, they can be done within the company and a decision can be taken and all that. No need to follow the standards of standing order, which are very, very rigorous, which are very exacting, and the basic decision of that not to dispense justice but to delay the case abnormally, so that the vested interest of the trade union leaders that is maintained. Yeah. So now that has gone. They have changed it. Yeah. Then comes your occupational safety, health and all that. So lack of any particular provision for workers who were employed in sectors like transport, journalism, sales, etc. Okay, for workers those who are working in journalism, transport and sales, there was no specific rule. They are not covered earlier. So now specific provisions are specified with have requirements and working hours for workers empowered with transport, journalism, sales, etc. The lack of provisions stating leave encashment, ये बहुत important है. I think this all of us should know, because this you should know all the points, but this one which affects many of the employees in the But before that, I did not tell you what is the difference between an employee and a worker. Any of you, sir, who has some idea who is a worker? Many times we use the word very loosely, that he is a worker. Earlier we used to call workmen, now they say men nahi hoga, because now women are also workers. How can you say workmen? So now it is worker. So who is a worker? Anybody? Saini Nair madam, do you have any idea who is a worker? Because I believe you must be from Kerala. So these are the two states who understand more about the workers, West Bengal and Kerala. Being communist governments. Yeah.
Good afternoon, sir.
Yeah, please.
Sir, my limited understanding about a workman will be somebody who is employed in an industrial setup where profit making is the agenda of that organization.
Okay.
So I feel that would be a definition of a person employed in a sector wherein profit making is the goal of the organization, and he or she contributes to that purpose.
Yeah, yes, I know, ma'am, you are right, but there is a structural side to it. I'll tell you. Structural side is very clear. That is, worker has to work under supervision of a manager whom they are calling now employee. We can call manager, no issue. So under the supervision, because he cannot be self-directed, a worker. And in the earlier standing orders, it was specified that a worker's duties should be specified and he should be advised in writing that these are the duties you must comply to the satisfaction of your supervisor. Okay, so that is how. So you cannot expect a worker to be self-driven like a manager. But manager, there is no definition. Manager means he has to do each and everything which is desired by the management from time to time. Yeah, this definition was given in the precedental Supreme Court judgment in Air India case. All of you, if you remember, 33,500 contract labor. You know, sorry, I'm sorry. Some 1,500 pilots who had gone on strike. Okay, saying that we are all workers. And the tribunals and all that, they had said, no, how can you be worker? Many of the pilots, their salary is much more than the managing director of Air India. How you can be a worker? It went to Supreme Court. Supreme Court said, nothing doing. Money has no role to play. The quality of supervision, that will decide whether you are a worker or not. If you are a manager, no supervision is needed. You are self-driven. But here, a pilot is a worker because he works under close supervision of his manager. So they declare them as workers, and that was by one stroke of the pen. Actually, the history was rewritten that now money is not a factor. You may be earning any amount of money, but if your work needs supervision, then you are working under the definition worker, then of a rule, then you can be worker. Okay. So an interesting anecdote, because that was the problem. I have worked for so many years in the industry and in the manufacturing industry. I'll be tempted to share very interesting thing. Only one, I'll with due apologies to all of you. When I was actually HR head in Reserve Bank of India, Calcutta, that time I'll make it very short. That time all the lifts are manually operated. The lift operator will be there. He will sit inside, he will open the door, you get in, he will ask which floor you will go, he will close the door, and in that floor he will press the button, you will go out. That was his duty. This was enlisted in the appointment letter, that you are being appointed as a lift man and this will be your job. Now, who can stop technology? Like during COVID time, who can stop technology? Who can stop e-marketing? Who can stop e-commerce? Same thing happened. These manually operated lifts, they became automatic. So liftman is not required. You go in, you press and you go out like as we are doing now. Now the issue arose, what will happen to these liftmen? I clearly remember there are 19 liftmen in RBI Calcutta, 19. So I on my own, I decided as HR head, I decided that I'll redeploy them in other areas where operation of some DG station, this and that, there, we'll train them, we will do it. Okay. So I told them, Dekho, there is no chance that we can continue with you. We have to be technology driven. So I am giving you an option. So all of them, verbally they agreed. So I issued the transfer letters to them. 1 or 2 days they did also. After the trade union leaders, they came and they said, this is a violation. This is a violation of the Factories Act. That how this man, this general manager HR, how he can ask you to do something which is not there in list of duties in the appointment letter that was given to you. That is sacrosanct. That is like Bible. You cannot change it. You can change it with consent of the workmen, but the workmen they say no, because उनके लिए तो अच्छा है ना, चुपचाप बैठ के उधर सैलरी मिलेगा. So So ultimately they went to tribunal. Then in tribunal, we lost. We went to Calcutta High Court. Calcutta High Court, virtually censured me. They said that you have no right to change the duty list without their consent. You have done it unilaterally. No, sir, I have taken their verbal का कोई value नहीं रहता है. And so you cannot do it. So what you have done is wrong. And then the lawyer standing by my side, as it happens, I am also a lawyer. He said, sir, my client is saying he is sorry. Actually, I was abusing in my mind. I never said sorry, but my lawyer said so. And the judge was happy. Oh, okay. General Manager of RBI is saying sorry. Okay. Forgiven. Then I came back. I said, okay, I'll fight you in your domain. I can transfer you. So I transferred all of them to Patna because I found that in their appointment letter it is written in the exigency of service, your jobs can be transferred within the region. Region is Eastern India, that means Bhubaneswar, Patna, Guwahati and Calcutta. So I transferred them to Patna. Then they found here they cannot fight. So they came around, they said, sir, आप जिधर बोलेंगे उधर काम करेंगे मगर पटना नहीं जाएंगे सर. मैंने बोला ठीक है. So all of them, they started working in different places. These are the examples I always I was giving to the managers working under me, that when you have to be a winner. If you cannot change the situation, you change yourself, but become a winner. I do not want to see your face as a lost face. Okay, that I have lost it for so many reasons. Excuses are good for writing a book, but not in the corporate scenario. Okay, so this is another joke, just you can remember. So a worker will work under supervision with defined duties communicated to him by appropriate authority in writing. Yes. Okay. So this is there. And employee or manager, they have nothing. They cannot fall back on anything. Yes. Then comes lack of provisions regarding night shift employment of women. Earlier, as you know, all of you, there was nothing prescribed. Yes, there are many managers who are very responsive, very sympathetic like me and all that. We used to hire taxis, and most of the taxis I clearly remember in Calcutta and other places in Delhi, we will find out women drivers. They were in our panel and we used to send them, because in some of the departments like corporate planning, this and that, the women they used to work till very late evening. So now it has been standardized into law. It has been standardized. Provisions are included, including the employment of women after 7 p.m. to 6 p.m. with conditions related to their consent. Of course, with your consent, and safety, working hours, holidays. Yeah. Okay. Then lack of provisions covering the overtime employees and their consent. Yeah. Earlier, the overtime was a very sought after one, because can you imagine what will be the overtime of a worker? How is it calculated? Like when I was general manager in RBI in Calcutta, I was very worried when I will be called for a meeting by any government agency or some other PSU. Many times I used to release the driver and the car. That मैं बाद में bus में जाऊंगा. Then I used to come by minibus or public bus and all that. You know why? Because that guy will charge overtime from 5 o'clock because he's a worker. I am not. So their calculation is that whatever is your total salary, suppose somebody's total salary is 30,000, then you will get 300 rupees per hour. Okay, that is converted, simple calculation. That will be converted to paisa, and that money, that rupee has to be paid. So if he is working for 3 hours, then he will get 900 rupees. Because suppose my meeting gets over at 9 o'clock, then 4 hours. Okay. And then I have to get it sanctioned from the regional director of RBI, and he will fire me left and right that I will not sanction why there was overtime. So I said best thing is isko chhod do aur bus mein aa jao ghar. So this was the scenario. This is the scenario of overtime. So that also they have changed now. That with consent they have fixed a formula which is a very reasonable one. This should be compensated, but not at the ugly manner as it was there earlier. Yeah. Then comes your, now we have come to the main, code of wages. So in an interval of 5 years, the state or the central government must revise the minimum wages. Okay. Okay. So in Industrial Disputes Act, which has been scrapped by now, some points have been taken out of that, that every 5 years there will be a wage revision, and wage revision will be through a process of collective bargaining. The charter of demands will be submitted by the trade union, the recognized and the majority trade union. There can be many trade unions. Okay, so mm, yeah. I'll also come to that. So so that is how it is, and so in an interval of 5 years, the state and central government must revise the minimum wages. So now the same has been incorporated. The state or central government shall not exceed a period of 5 years, but revision of for revision of minimum wages. That means you cannot keep it not revised for more than 5 years. Then comes the definition of term employer includes, देखो here, employer includes any person who employs one or more person of an establishment. So this is the definition, this was there earlier. Now the definition is person who directly or indirectly employs one or more persons at an establishment. Indirectly also. Okay, that is how the contract labor comes into the picture. Because you are not employing directly, but you are employing through the contract labor. So they will also be covered. Then comes the code on provision of central advisory board consisting of employers, employees. This was the earlier one. Earlier one, it's better you don't remember because it will create confusion. The new one is the code provides for a central advisory board consisting of employers, then employees in equal number as employers. Okay, so 3 from employee side and 3 from the management side. Okay. And important thing is it does not say, earlier standing order used to say that you have to take representatives from the recognized, registered and majority trade union. It does not say that. That means if a management finds that trade union fellows, they will be disruptive and they will create problem, they will take workers, but workers will be somebody who is pro productivity, who is prepared to help the management and implementing different that freedom now has come. Then independent persons not exceeding 1/3 of the independent experts also you can take, and 5 representatives from different areas in case that is left to the management. It is not the trade union will decide the 5 representatives, it is the management will decide. Then payment of wages act was applicable only to employees under wages below 24,000. Okay, so this was the earlier one. Now there has been a removal of such threshold limit for applicability of under the code on wages. So here this limit is not there. That means even less than that they will be there. Yeah. So a new definition of wages. This definition of wages is very crucial. That all salary components expressed in terms of money or capable of being so expressed. So money is the most important factor. Okay, this definition holds binding across all the 4 codes. This definition of your wages, this is valid across the codes. As I was telling you, definition of workers se shuru karke, so many things, they had different definitions, but now this is the common definition, right? Then 2, okay, exclusion from the above are statutory bonus. One of you had asked how many, you can count here. I have listed out all. Huh? Okay, so exclusion from the above are statutory bonus, HRA, conveyance allowance, commission, etc. So these will not be included in compounding your wages. But because now the advantage, many of you who have worked in the private sector, you will understand. I'll have an understanding with my private employer. I will say, give me most of my wages by way of entertainment allowance, by way of educational allowance, which will not be taxed. And that itself will comprise 70 to 80% of the salary. And then you get tax free. Okay, even I was getting that benefit when I was in corporate. They taught me that these things are why are you taking a salary, you take like this. Cleansing allowance, flat cleaning allowance, because you entertain a lot of guests who are coming for promotion of business, your house gets dirtied, so the cleansing allowance like this, these are not taxable. That was the scenario. Now they say that the exclusion of all these which are excluded from being counted as part of a remuneration salary, these are statutory bonus, HRA, conveyance allowance, incentive, etc., commission, etc. But it cannot exceed 50% of total remuneration. I just told you that there are months where my reimbursement component was almost 80% of my salary. Okay, and I was not paying any income tax. So for restricting that, they said 50% से ज़्यादा नहीं होगा. So gratuity will now be paid under new definition of wage and not as per earlier Gratuity Act. So new definition of the wage is that the duration is it will be 1 year if you are in a contractual job, or your job period is specified and all that. So it will not be as per the earlier definition. Then the period of qualifying service for gratuity was earlier 5 years, but under new code it is reduced to 1 year. I have told you now. But permanent employees not engaged for fixed period. This difference you must understand. Permanent employees not engaged for fixed period will not be eligible to get gratuity after 1 year. They will continue to get after 5 years. That means this is a disincentive for the organizations to engage somebody on permanent job, because there are so many studies that have shown that if we put somebody on permanent job, number one, the productivity gets affected after 1 year, 2 years. Chalta hai, company ka maal, dariya mein dal, all the concepts they come into being. And that is one part. The other part is in the present job situation, in the market environment, you never know what sort of changes will happen in the market. So you need not be tied to a pole for 30 years or 40 years. You should have the option to change somebody, or somebody should have an option to change from your company to some other company after maybe 2 years, 3 years, like that. Yeah. That is encouraged. Okay, that is encouraged. Then the 5 is any worker can ask for leave encashment at the end of each calendar year. Okay, such leave encashment is calculated in wages as defined in labor codes. Okay, so now you must be getting your encashment where many of the allowances will be excluded. It will be excluded. You suppose you have taken festival allowance, medical allowance, these, that, and all that. Your HRA, these are excluded for encashment in many private sector companies. But now they say that you cannot do that. If these are part of the wages, as I have defined now, then these have to be included in your encashment, and encashment has to be done every year. That means for last year, it has to be done in January. Then for this year, it will be done in the coming January. You cannot make any change from this periodicity, because this is law. Then 6, employee-centric approach in labor codes. What is that? Single register and and the license proof, because now everything is online. So why you should have different register for Workmen Compensation Act, for PF Act, for Industrial Disputes Act, for Factories Act? Why you should have different register? One register, that is sufficient, and one license is sufficient. Then contract workers can be engaged in core area. This is, my dear friends, this is a very, very important change that has happened, because when I was the occupier of 4 factories, in my last company, that time most of the cases will be coming to me as occupier. If there is an industrial accident, then also the occupier will be held accountable. And once the police came to arrest me from Andhra Pradesh, that occupier can be arrested if because one worker fell down when the erection was going on. Okay, he fell down and he died. So they wanted to arrest the occupier, and I had to hide for one evening at a friend's place. Next day, of course, I got a bail, and then subsequently the case came in our favor that it has happened due to negligence of the worker, not because of any negligence in safety done by the occupier and director to the factory. So once that was established, then I was free. Otherwise, these problems. So contract workers can be engaged in core areas means, as per Contract Labor Act. Contract Labor Act was enacted to take into account the seasonal requirement of labor. Seasonal requirement. Suppose a factory is a bridge is being constructed. Okay. So once the bridge is constructed, the workers will have to go home. But they will say नहीं नहीं मेरे को परमानेंट करो, मैं तो इधर 1 साल से ब्रिज बना रहा हूँ, अभी ब्रिज बन गया तो मेरे को भगा रहे हो, नहीं होगा. That cannot happen. That was going against the interest of the employers. So this rule has been changed now, that they can be engaged in core activity also. Core activities are the production activity and other activities without which a factory cannot run. So the provision earlier was, in factories you can engage contract labor in areas either in seasonal nature work or in areas like canteen or providing some facility, some electric, this and that facility in the township, water facility in the, these are not core areas. So there you can engage contract labor. But in core areas, like I was heading the currency printing factory of Reserve Bank, there you cannot engage contract workers for the core area. But now contract workers, they can be engaged in core area. Rather, they are encouraged now to be engaged in core area, because you never know, the skill requirement will be different tomorrow. So why I need somebody to be tied to a pole for 30 years? Yeah. Then increasing worker threshold from 100 to 300 for the Standing Order Act. Okay, the Standing Order Act was a very pernicious act because it was putting a lot of restrictions. So now that threshold of 100 has been increased to 500. Yes, then only the Standing Order Act will be applicable, otherwise not. So transferring labor courts to industrial tribunals. Labor courts' basic purpose was, as I said, because of the vested interest of the trade union as well as multifarious trade unions. One will be Communist trade union, one will be BJP trade union, one will be INTUC, the other will be AITUC. All these trade unions, they have their CAC. So all of them would like to, they had always flourished in labor courts by getting adjournment, by getting term relief. By all these things they have benefited. So now that has been changed to industrial tribunals. Tribunals, they work like in the like a high court, and they pass the order. The orders are implemented, and that is how to bring in a lot of efficiency and speed they are being done. Then factory inspector, as defined in the earlier Factories Act. Many of you may be familiar. If you are not, then the factory inspector is the MIBAP of a factory that was defined in the Factory Act. Now they will be designated as inspector cum facilitator. So now being facilitator is important because they have to ensure that the factory does not come to a grinding halt or stop. I clearly remember the factory inspector used to have hearty laugh when they will impose a condition and the factory will get closed for something, some sort of little bit of irregularity here and there. I passed it for 1-2 days. They will stop the factory. Okay, so in that situation, you will come around, you will go to them, fall at their feet, all these things. Now they themselves, they have been designated as facilitator. Yeah. Then comes, revised definition of wages will result in higher minimum wages. Yes, minimum wages for all fixing floor rate irrespective of the state. Yes, ये बहुत important है. That the Minimum Wages Act, there was an act, Minimum Wages Act, 40 Act tha. So the Minimum Wages Act, it said that the state government, because we are in a concurrent list, so state governments can make rule also. So state government will make whether you are central government undertaking or PSU, जो भी है, हमारे state में खोले हो तो हमारा rule है, उसको मानना पड़ेगा. So they would have fixed 300 or 400 at the minimum wages. Okay. Then the neighboring state must have fixed 200 or 300 rupees. So there will be a lot of unnecessary cross migration from this to that state, because in this state this minimum wages is this, the other state it is high. To remove that, and what sort of cross country movement of the labor that created problem during COVID, all of you have seen. Okay, so that to remove that, what they did, they brought in a concept of floor rate. The floor rate will be decided by the central government, and the state governments, they can actually they cannot pay less than the floor rate. If they are paying more than the floor rate, suppose a floor rate of 500 is fixed for Maharashtra by the central government by their notification, then no factory or nobody can pay less than that. Okay, if you want, you can pay more than that, no problem. Many times it happens when you don't get labor, you have to pay more than that. It demands demand market demand. Yeah. Then grant of permission for women to work with consent from 7 to 6 p.m. This I have discussed with you, with necessary incentives and safety safeguard. Incentives for doing work in the night and safety safeguard, that I have already told you that I did not wait for this law to come, but however I was in charge of I had decided that yeah, the vehicle will be provided driven by a lady. Okay, and there will be somebody else also, a male will also be there in the car if they are to be dropped at 12 o'clock or 1 o'clock at their respective houses. Yes. Then payment of wages by the end of the next day in case of resignation. If somebody has resigned, now it has been made compulsory that next day his terminal dues will have to be settled. Okay. Yes. So earlier it will drag on for years. Okay, but now you cannot do that. So concept of principal employer is defined to give leeway to them to fix responsibility on registered contractors. I was just giving you the example as to how the police came from Andhra Pradesh to arrest me because I was the principal employer. Principal employer means the principal employer, he cannot go to the factory to be there. So if he is a director, he will be in the corporate office. So all the everything will be run in the factory in his name. He has to sign all the orders and all that. So that is why a lot of leeway has been given if a contract labor gets meets with an accident or dies or anything. It is the contractor who will be responsible. Earlier, the principal employer was responsible, and that is why they came to arrest me. I was the principal employer. Yeah. So 8.55 bonus to be paid by company if contractor cannot pay. See, many times contractor will say, sir, I am bankrupt, I cannot pay. Okay. So even if the bonus has to be paid, they to the contract level, they will not pay. So if they are not paying, then it is now compulsory for the principal employer that you will have to pay this 8.33. That is the minimum bonus. Okay. So that bonus they have to pay now. That's a good thing in favor of the workers that they have done. Earlier this was hanging fire. Who will pay? Who will pay? Who will pay? Right? Yeah. Then other linking to payment of wages by credit to the bank account of the worker is compulsory. Yes, this has been done. Possibly many of you may not be aware that there was a concept even earlier that citing SIGSTING, citing the pay register was done by the HR. So HR guy will be present there when the contractor is making payment to the workers. And he will sign that yes, in my presence, minimum wages have been paid. But many of these contractors, they were so chalu, what they will do that as soon as this fellow vanishes, this HR guy from the factory vanishes, he goes back and gives a report in my presence, everything is hunky-dory. They will collect 50% of the money from the workers, telling that if you do not give this, then tomorrow I'll not call you for work. In a remote village, a poor worker, if he does not get a job tomorrow, then what is he going to do? So he will say, okay, I'll give you 30% of whatever salary I got. So these were all happening by cash. So it was possible. Now what they have done is that the worker's bank account has to be given to the employer, and there the money will be credited straight away. So बीच में तो कोई है ही नहीं, and it is linked to Aadhaar. Tomorrow, if I want to generate how much this worker XYZ has got from me during the year, if anybody wants to get, they will get from the Aadhaar card by linking the Aadhaar card. Yeah. Then comes a very important area, reskilling fund for retrenched workers. That every factory have to constitute a reskilling fund for retrenched workers. When people are retrenched on discipline ground, you cannot do anything. Misconduct, nothing you can do. But many times you are retrenching people because he does not have the skill. Like now during COVID time, many of the companies, they retrenched workmen, retrenched employees because they are not very good in computers, they are not very good in mathematics, they are not very good in analytical skill, very good in artificial intelligence. So even if you retrench them, you have to arrange for the reskilling. That reskilling fund has to be constituted. Here 50% will be given by the government, 50% by the concerned factory. Yeah. So workers in unorganized sector can access ESI hospital for treatment. ये बहुत बड़ा benefit worker के लिए. In a remote area, you must have seen a factory is there, and for the factory employees there is ESIC. But the ESIC hospital will not allow any of the poor, laborers, villager, and all that who needs its help. If they are in dire state, they have met with an accident, this, that, and all that. The ESIC hospital will say, no, this is only for the workers who are registered with us, and they should be this, that, and all that. Now that has been removed. Okay, so in that unorganized sector workers, this is important. Unorganized sector workers can have access to ESI hospitals. Yes. So what are the common changes? The central government will be the appropriate government for public sector undertakings known as PSUs. PSU ka malik mai baap, appropriate government means who will issue fiat and instruction. If there is a dispute in understanding of law, then this appropriate government's interpretation is final. Then compoundable offences under the Industrial Relation Code 20, the Code on Social Security, are punishable with 1 year imprisonment and fine. It was not there. Now it has been put also. Okay, that in addition to fine, there will be 1 year imprisonment, because you have done it deliberately. Just because you are coming from a big company, so you can say, okay, paisa de do और निकल आओ, नहीं होगा, 1 साल अभी imprisonment होगा. The inspector cum facilitator shall be established as new authority under the occupational safety, health, working condition, and all that. The code on social security, industrial code, their duty will be to provide information and reports to industry employees and employers regarding compliance as decided by the appropriate central government. Okay, so the inspector, the factory inspector, is now facilitator. So he cannot play the earlier role of a sort of adjudicator and a dictator. Now he has to play the role of facilitator. So he has to ensure that all the compliances are done properly for the benefit of the workers. So what is a snapshot? So we have come to the end now. The snapshot is, this briefly summarizes that in fine, the aim of the new labor codes is to reduce century long, some of the labor laws are before independence, from before independence, to reduce century long complexities from British time. Then this is first one. Second point is improve case of compliance with more transparency. Now the compliances are more because they have been simplified, and people, they know that if I do not comply, I have to pay heavy price. And everything is digitalized and everything is being closely monitored. So I cannot go anywhere. So I cannot bribe the babu and get away. No chance. With more transparency, yeah. Then smoothen case of doing business. Now doing business is very easy in the sense that whatever decision you take, it can be implemented very easily in the factories or in your work situation. Okay, it has smoothened the ease of doing business. Not for nothing, we have moved nearly 50 notches up in the international index of ease of doing business, and more penal liability for non-compliance. If somebody is non-compliant, then now it is just not the compounding by making fine on him, it is not that, but they may be put in jail. So that is how more penal liability that has also helped, it will also help when it is fully implemented across the country to ward off any sort of non-compliance. I think we have come to the end of it. Yeah, thank you. So this is for you, sirs. So thank you, sirs and madam. Yeah. So thank you very much. So I think I'll take a few questions. Yes.
Thank you, sir.
Deepak sir, would you like to sum up, or any of the participants who wants to? Yeah.
There are lots and lots of complications, but I would request Brigadier Srinivas to proceed with his points.
Okay. Yeah,
Sir, good afternoon. Can you hear me?
yeah, I can hear you. Very good afternoon to you, Mr.
Jai
Srinivas.
Hind, sir. I have got similar experiences like what you told about the RBI. I have got similar experiences in the Indian Army. I have been two chief engineers, so I thought I need to request you to put across something on the perspective of an HR. In most of the government servant, we have something called officiating appointments. So these officiating appointments do not carry forward anything called wages.
Yeah.
But at the same time, the system nicely takes the juice out of you.
Yes.
Is there any time limit within which this officiating appointment should become regular appointment? And if so, how are these people going to be benefited? This is one. Then the second question is, sir, there is a column in our appraisal system which clearly says efficiency bar or something like that.
Yeah.
How is that linked to the wages and how is it standable legally in the court?
Yes, I think your first point regarding officiating, let me clear that than this one. See, to my knowledge, because of with my long years of experience in IR and HR, and I was lucky enough to be very strong in labor laws, which many HR people they do not give much importance to labor law. So what I am trying to tell you is that as far as probation is concerned, there is a clear Supreme Court judgment. I can share it with you, which says that you cannot keep anybody on probation for more than 2 years. That means before he finishes 2 years of probation, you can extend after 6 months. Suppose you are not confirming him, then you can extend by another 6 months, like it goes on. But you cannot keep it hanging beyond 2 years. By chance, one case was there with us in RBI itself, that by chance somebody crosses 2 years, then it will be treated as deemed confirmation. Okay, that means he is, whether you issue him a letter for confirming or not, that hardly matters. He will be treated as a confirmed employee, entitled to all the facilities and privileges of a confirmed employee. After that only they became very careful. I am very sure that officiating also comes within that, and you cannot leave somebody officiating for more than 2 years. You have to take a decision within 2 years or at least 1 day before 2 years whether to make him permanent or confirmed or not. This is with regard to officiating, because many of the languages used in that provision judgment by Supreme Court, they are also applicable to the officiating. So I am sure somebody has to just raise his hand and say, then they will say yes, it is applicable to this also. Then next question was, sir, can you? In
the appraisal system, we have efficiency bar.
Efficiency bar, yeah. I remember when I was working as an executive magistrate, in civil service, that time this concept was there. This is the basic pay. Then, you get increment for maybe 3 years, 4 years, then the EB comes. And then finally you cross, then again it goes on like this. So actually in the present scenario, because my last 15 years, I have been in 3 private sector companies in the position of director, CEO and all that. So we did not have anything like efficiency bar. I am not very sure about the government position. Possibly you know better. Now we have a dynamic performance appraisal system where the weightage is 80% for attribute based performance appraisal, and the other 20%, which is variable salary component linked, they are KRA based. So key result areas are something that are identified in case of each and every position, and on the basis of the percentage realization of KRAs, your percentage of variable salary is decided. 20% is kept as reserve. Maybe after 3 months, if the cycle is 3 months, 3 months after, HR will give us a statement. HR will obtain from the concerned head of the department that what is the percentage realization of KRA in case of X, Y, Z, and whatever they give, then based on that, taking approval from their HOD, the HR will communicate this to the salary desk, and salary desk is going to pay that if 60% KRA has been realized, then 60% of the variable pay will be paid. If less than 50%, then zero will be paid. These are policies. Zero will be paid because they are not prepared to accept anybody less than 50%. He will not get anything. And if somebody is getting 90% score, then he will get 110% because the basic purpose of this performance appraisal system is to make you run, 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 run. So that is why for competition they will pay 110%. The other 80% will come from your attribute based performance appraisal, which comprises of your honesty, integrity, timeliness of job delivery, sense of belonging, like there are 10 attributes. And taking that into account, you will be branded, taking into the score whether you come within the year of excellent or very good or good or average or below average. So this is the concept in private sector now, where I have done, and I have advised, and many of the I have prepared performance appraisal system for nearly 19 companies, and they are working very well, including Unit Trust of India. So what I'm telling is this concept of EV, I'm not very familiar as to how it is working now, but sooner the better if they link it to performance. Performance means quantifiable performance. If something cannot be measured, it cannot be improved. Like when I was working in civil service, they used to only give confidential report that he is a good performer, he is a bad performer. How do you know he is good? The moment somebody asks, is he really good? Then you have no answer because there is no figures with you. So with facts and figures, we are doing the performance appraisal now, and that this must move. But yeah, sir, that's what I feel.
And my last what do you call request would be, sir, have you in the same form deliberated on trying to look at an appraisal system for academicians?
Yes. Yeah. Academicians.
Yeah, he can throw some light on that.
So can you share it, because the audience today are all academicians.
No. You are absolutely right. So as you know, after my corporate stint, first I joined as a director in Pillai Institute of Management. So there I tried to introduce this performance appraisal system. Straight away I lifted from the corporate and I put it there, and it was all our professors, teachers, academicians, or yeah. I would not say that the result was spectacular. No, it was not. Actually, because the quantification of job in academics is slightly different. And like now, as very frequently, very rightly, I am very influenced by that sort of approach by VC sir. These, different school of methods of learning. Okay, so AOL, assurance of learning. So assurance of learning has a much broader concept through which the performance measurement of the teachers should be done. Because this way, not only your teaching is adjusted, but the type of assurance you are giving to the institute as well as to the students, that whatever is in the syllabus, and I'm giving you this assurance as a teacher that I have taught that, and you should be good at that. And then this assurance of learning again changes with changing situations. Like now, I'll give you a small example that in marketing, I taught marketing also, because that is one area that is also an MBA I've done in HR and marketing. So in that area, we have talked a lot, and I was very fond of the Big Bang theory, that you go to the market, like when I was in the corporate, go to the market, do a big bang in a square and take customer feedback, then come out with a lot of immediate effort, this and that, so that your sale goes up in a very big way. Now in COVID times, when nobody was going to the market, everything was online, do you think the traditional concept of marketing it is applicable? It is not. So that is why, but assurance of learning is something very important, that when you try to assure all the stakeholders, including the most important stakeholder being students, that you are teaching them the contemporary skills so that that can make them the winner. Yeah, so the performance appraisal has to be done, but I must say the contents in performance appraisal in a corporate scenario that cannot be made applicable in an educational institution. It has to be slightly different. Yeah.
Thank you, sir. I think it's been very, very nice to listen to you. And then more so because there is always a relationship between the employee
Yeah.
and the employer.
Yeah.
And that harmonious relationship actually has given some guidelines and regulatories
Yeah.
which will make it better. So I think, sir, you have thrown light on a lovely aspect, and I hope as good employees we behave properly, and as good employers we expect good behavior from that side also. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, thank you. I think Meenakshi ma'am is asking a question. Hello, Meenakshi ma'am. I could not read it. If you don't mind, can you read it? Or you can ask directly.
Sir, I would like to ask the workers was working in the private sector. Are the insurance policies are applicable to them? Is there any rule for them?
Yeah, it is applicable for them. See, insurance policy is applicable for them. Especially, I remember in the factories we used to go for a sort of floater policy. Maybe for 300 workers, we will go for a 1 crore, 2 crore floater policy, where for any accident, and all that you can invoke, and that is what that is very compulsory. So that is for the workers, and for other installations, of course, a lot of insurance will be there, which is for fire, earthquake, this and that. That is the normal insurance management which we teach in management classes. But as far as employees are concerned, yes, they are fully protected. Otherwise, for your information, ma'am, otherwise, actually, the factory inspector will not renew your factory license beyond a year. He will first document he will want is whether you have an insurance policy for all the workers or not. Yeah.
But the workers are aware of that.
Yeah. The HR guys, they do a lot of seminars, and workers are aware, and many of them they have benefited. Madam, I could not tell you. Actually, in Workmen Compensation Act, it is clearly specified. Suppose you lose one finger, then what will be compensation? If you are losing finger of left hand, the compensation will be less. If you are losing a finger in right hand, it will be more. And if you are losing your right hand, then obviously you will get the highest compensation. So these are all specified in the Workmen Compensation Act. Taking that into account, the insurance companies, they make payment.
Okay, it's good to know that
Yeah,
workers are benefited.
no,
Thank you so much, sir.
great. We have done a lot of good things, but these 4 level codes will do wonders, I am sure. Yeah.
But Meenakshi ma'am, it is important to also realize that whether it is a worker or it is an employee, so that differentiation you need to bear.
Yeah. Absolutely right. What Dibokji is telling, because the rules are different. They are governed by 2 different rules. Okay, so one is governed all the labor laws. They are for protection of the workers. So naturally, that difference is also that plays a very important role, right?
Yeah, everyone should get benefited.
Normally, good employers, they extend all the benefits. Sometimes there is a problem, yeah, but not very regularly. But yeah, problems are there in some cases.
Yeah, thank you so much, sir.
There was also a question about ESI. If Yashwant sir, if you can unmute and ask your question directly.
Yeah.
Yashwant.
सर my name is Vishnu. I think employer को ESI पे करना जरूरी है sometimes allowance पे.
Yes. ESI, the ESI premium has to be paid by every factory which is engaging more than 50 workers. You know,
I think the question is different. What he's saying is it mandatory for an employer to pay ESI on conveyance allowance?
ESI on conveyance allowance?
I think the question is slightly flawed, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes,
I think you're needing to ask that whether conveyance allowance is included while calculating the wage for the ESIS purpose. Is that what you're referring to, Yashwant sir?
Yes, sir.
No, it is not taken into account. Yes, I am clear now.
It is not taken into account.
It is not taken into account.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else would like to ask anything? Well, thank you, Nandi sir. Your vast experience is indeed very useful for all of us. But in my experience, that how much ever reforms and laws happen, ultimately they are implemented by human beings, and there is how much ever we try to make it black and white, there is always scope for something in gray.
Yeah.
And that's why disputes arise. That's why there are labor courts. That's
Yes.
why there are industrial courts, because the interpretation leaves room for being interpreted in a different way by the management or a different way by the employee, and in a third way by the trade unions, perhaps.
Yeah.
So it's always going to be, reforms are always good and they should happen with change in times. But implementation is a big challenge for the management and particularly for HR. I know it's not easy for HR to deal with it. But if the laws enable it, it becomes easier.
Yeah.
So thank you, Dr. Nandi, for sharing these insights. And we're looking forward to when these laws get notified, all the four of them, all the four codes get
Yeah.
notified,
Yeah.
and let's see how things work. Because even when the codes get notified, there are still going to be, like, if you have a 4-year wage agreement or a 3-year wage agreement or a 5-year
Yes.
wage agreement with the trade
Yes.
union,
Yeah.
if bilaterally something is negotiated, that becomes the policy of the organization,
Yes.
or that becomes the policy of that factory.
Yeah.
So
True.
the codes are only a guideline. It does not preclude and it does not prevent trade unions and workers for demanding more than what has been prescribed. And management tends to, at times give into it for better and improved industrial relations. So thank you, sir. And I like to thank you, Slide, with so many gifts for all of us. Thank you for these gifts. Thank you, friends, for joining.
I'll just allow me to convey my deep sense of gratitude and thanks to you for inviting me to talk on this subject, which is slightly complicated, but I tried to make it as simple as possible. I don't know how much I succeeded, but thank you very much, Devakjit, and thanks to Srinivasan, Dr. Srinivasan sir, and because it was very nice on your part to come out with different perspectives with which I could also relate. Then Yashwant sir and Minaki ma'am asked very interesting questions. Thanks all of you, and again a special thanks to Deepakji for inviting me. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Very much.
Thank you.